Grand Rising to all, and welcome to Public Safety and Governance Committee. I am your chair, Scotty Johnson. I am joined by the vice chair, the vice mayor of the city, Jan Michelle Lemon-Kearney, committee members Ann Albee and Mark Jeffries. We are joined with guests Jeff Cramerdine and Evan Nolan. We've got a tight agenda, a lot to talk about, so we will move quickly to public comment, and I will invite up first for 2 minutes, Mr. Rodney Christian. You have the privilege of the floor for 2 minutes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I really
Hello.
wasn't planning to talk, but I was blessed with words. So the whole thing with the city, I do, everyone is in my prayers also. So I apologize for that, for not talking at the right. So the curfew, I'm for it, but I really pray that we really look it over and have a deep conversation with the police, the officers on that at that time, so we can have a good understanding, because I'm out there a lot, and I would like to be able to be in that presence when these kids are being approached or whatever as much as possible. So I pray that we can really work together with our community leaders who are out there a lot, so there's no confusion when this stuff starts going down. So I pray that we do that. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. Alexis Kidd. I'm sorry, there's another last name on here, ma'am, but I know you as Miss Alexis Kidd.
You know, when
Welcome.
you get husbands, they want their name attached and everything, so no worries.
Thank you. You have the privilege of the floor for
right.
2 minutes, ma'am.
Good morning. I feel like it's been so long since I've seen you all, so it's a pleasure sitting before you all. I just want to take the time to first just encourage you all to stay the course. There have been some great things that have been happening in our city with our youth, with your investments, with your time, with strategies, and I want to see that continued. Just so you all know, just to give some background, our kids, we had about 20 kids that we were able to support without Human Service Fund. When we received Human Service Fund, we have over 300 kids that are signed up and registered in our program and coming through our center. And so you're making a difference even in our small center in the West End. I'm willing to be, our center, like you know, are willing to be a support to the efforts and solutions for the community in terms of our issues with curfew. We want to make sure that it's an opportunity for restitution, for our kids to really have an opportunity to think about what they're doing, have a chance to really make some critical decisions in their life. Not everyone that's out there is out there to do bad. Some are just hanging out with their friends and need an alternative. And so we really want to see how we can continue to partner with CPD, with you all at the city, and other community organizations to make sure that we make the impact that we intend to make for our youth, keeping them safe, giving them guidance, giving them opportunities to make right decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sam B. Is there a Sam B? Okay. You have the privilege of the floor for 2 minutes.
So, coincidentally, after the youth violence on the radio, I think it's Today Explained, it's like a Vox radio app thing, they were just talking about the issue, and they brought up this concept of focused deterrence. I guess Boston evidently pioneered it or developed it, and then they applied it to Baltimore, and it's had great success. And basically, in these situations, you find everyone involved, and you find those people, and you follow up with them. And through doing that, you keep the pattern from continuing. So Bill Cunningham and Mr. Smitherman had a conversation, and Bill Cunningham was like running the numbers in his head, and he was like, well, it's like 1,000 kids, it turns out, that are doing 86% of the crime or whatever. 1,000 kids, that's manageable. I mean, Baltimore, I don't know how many, whatever. We just need to focus on those kids. And it's as simple as that. The other thing they talked about was, having spaces for kids. A lot of the money came from the COVID era stuff, and Baltimore's running out, being able to build things like skate parks and roller rinks and whatnot. And you guys decided to spend time and energy on things like dog parks for dogs being able to, in broken sewers. So you don't have that option. But you certainly don't have the option of buying drones because you don't have police officers who can operate them or know how to operate them. But you can invest in these 1,000 kids. And it's called Focus Deterrence. Just listen to the episode. It's on our radio. I'll finish the rest at 11 or whenever the next meeting is.
Mr. Leroy Shabazz.
Good morning. My name is Leroy Shabazz. I'm a vetted instructor from the the Ohio Department of Public Safety for a program called CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. I am a current vetted instructor. CERT is a program, it's 21 hours of training that allows community persons to become disaster assets and extensions of first responders in their communities. I know for a fact from talking to Chief Flagler that the current fire chief does support the CERT program and would like to have the CERT program in the different communities. Again, they're disaster assets and extensions of first responders. The basic CERT program is just after disaster happens to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people and then go home, do some deliberation after the incident and go home. My training allows me to understand more about disasters and what disasters really amount to. In reference to civil disorders, I want to point out that in the Ohio, the Hamilton County Emergency Management Operations Plan, it points out that civil disasters is one of the first 21 issues that they have to deal with. That they consider a hazard to be worried about. So I'm the brother that sent you the information about the former FBI agent who said that when he was an FBI agent, he knew that the Cincinnati police and the FBI would not allow him to make an arrest on Rick Ross, and the crack cocaine went to where it was, right? And then I sent another clip talking about the fact that there's a reality of a contingency plan for dismissal of the Constitution. So I don't want to play games. I just would like to actually get to the point where I can be in the community, because I'm the safety committee chairman of the Evanston Community Council, and I don't want to go political with this stuff.
I got you. Your 2 minutes is up. If you could take that information down to my office, 346. Sean is in there, and thank you for your time. The only thing on this card says Captain CFD.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Good morning.
Hello.
Governing body, governance body. I'm here in regards to giving an illustration. When we hear the words Moses and Egypt, David and Goliath, what did that illustration invoke in your mind? Most likely, someone coming up against a supernatural force that has an imbalance of power. And so that invokes the definition of bully, someone who attacks someone unprovokedly because they have an imbalance of power. So this is what's occurring in my current situation, where I'm not the only one, where members have used performance rating as a weapon against members under their jurisdiction. They don't give them proper guidance or counseling or even updates as to what they can improve on. In fact, they make up things at the end of the performance rating to chastise and berate members who may be of minority classification. And we have records historically. This has happened to me for the last 8 years. As you see, I've been before this governance body for several times for the exact same thing. Particularly Hugh Haynes, Jason Voller, and most recently Assistant Chief Flagler have weaponized performance rating against me. And I'm not the only one that this has happened to. And such ones have an appearance of goodness, but they prove false to its power because they act like they have an appearance of wanting to do things right, but their actions belie their claims. Micromanaging, microaggressions, hostilities, such things are against the better of good for the City of Cincinnati Fire Department and the city itself. So it goes back to the original opening. When we think of Moses, David, they were up against supernatural forces, but since they were truly God-fearing, the one who took up their battle helped them conquer. So therefore, my conviction is that those who are bullying inside the city, they will not succeed, because if God is with me, who can be against me? It takes more courage to be a leader than a bully. So such things need to be addressed in a proper fashion and forum. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that concludes all of our public comments. We have no online speakers. We will head to the agenda. We have a presentation from the City Manager, Long, Police Chief Thigi, and Solicitor Emily Warner. They will be addressing the curfew enforcement. That is already on the books. So let's be clear about something. The curfew enforcement is already on the books. We have, as a city, have taken a step back, and we want to make sure that the curfew that was implemented, I do believe in the 90s, is now in line with the 2025, to make sure that we are doing everything we possibly can to make sure the curfew is equitably distributed, and to make sure we are addressing all concerns from citizens and the police department and the city administration and this council and the mayor. So I would like to thank you, ladies, for all of the hard work that you've done, doing a deeper dive into the curfew to make sure that it is up to par with the 2025 society and 2025 young people. These are not the same young people from the 90s. It's a different era. That's not a negative. That's not negative. It's just that we're dealing with a different culture of young people. So ladies, thank you very much, and you have the floor.
Good morning, Chair and Council members. Thank you for having me here this morning to discuss the work we've been working on this summer to present an updated plan for curfew enforcement in Cincinnati. This is not a decision we've made lightly or rashly. It's part of a larger conversation that has been ongoing for years. We've been addressing concerns about juveniles and their increased involvement in crime for several years. It started in 2022 when we identified a need for resources for youth in our city, especially during summer months. In 2023, we created Summer in Cincy, a landing page on the city's website where kids and families could easily be connected to the help they needed, whether that's food, assistance paying bills, or mental health resources. As we continue to problem solve, I realized we had the opportunity to connect with our young people and provide integral free programming during evening hours in the summer months. That's how Rec at Night was born in 2024. This summer, we expanded the programming to include skate nights at Sawyer Point to make sure kids had choices for Friday and Saturday nights. We go where kids are, whether that's with our CRC and park staff, community responders at Government Square, or community care outreach workers. We are building an ecosystem around our young people to provide them with the access to food, careers, mentors, and safe spaces. This work is centered around positive outcomes for our kids and, in turn, our entire community. We are addressing the root cause of violence and providing kids the care and services they need so they hopefully turn away from crime. Curfew enforcement has been a part of the broader conversation as another intervention tool to ultimately keep kids safe. My staff in the City Manager's Office has been working for the last month to identify obstacles, find solutions, and present a comprehensive, equitable plan to enforce a curfew in the city. That ongoing conversation has included Cincinnati Police providing insight into how to operationalize this and what they might need to do as a department to review policies and procedures so officers have clear guidance. A cross-departmental team has been discussing enforcement options, what should be updated in our municipal code, who in our communities could provide support, and identifying them kids would go, and identifying where kids would go if their parents or guardians is not available. City Solicitor Emily Smart Warner will now discuss the two ordinances before you today.
So while the discussion about exactly how the curfew is going to be enforced and the options that we're going to provide youth and our citizens is more complex, the legislation before you is relatively simple. There is one ordinance that will, if passed, amend the curfew time to be a single time for all youth under the age of 18, and that time is 11 p.m. Previously, the current curfew that is in place is 10 p.m. for those under 16 and midnight for those under 18, which just makes enforcement a little bit more difficult. So that first piece of legislation applies citywide every day and is a single curfew time at 11 p.m. The second ordinance that you have before you proposes what we're calling an extended curfew, special curfew district. And this enables the city to respond to areas where the data shows, an earlier curfew could be beneficial to enhancing public safety. The map that is shown is the proposed downtown special extended curfew district. Within these boundaries, the curfew, again, for all of those under the age of 18, would begin at 9 p.m. In the course of our review of the curfews, both for the citywide curfew and the special extended curfew district, we also look to see what the best practices are for exceptions, and the exceptions to the curfew are listed on the slide and within each ordinance before you.
Thank you. Let's walk through how this will work. I'll go very high level, and then I will see if the chief wants to expand upon that. After curfew time, if CPD engages with an unaccompanied minor, they will encourage that child to comply with the curfew and go home. If the youth does not comply, CPD may detain them. At this point, three things can happen. If CPD can reach an adult and determine where they live, the child will be taken home. If an adult cannot be contacted, they will go to a curfew center. If the youth has outstanding charges, they will go to 2020. Seven Hills Neighborhood House has agreed to partner with the city and stand up as the curfew center. I did not want to utilize recreation centers as we are building strong, positive connections as these spaces through Rec at Night and other regular programming. Seven Hills will provide a neutral location, staff, and other resources to assist in connecting minors to their families. If we're unable to get them home that night, they will go to Lighthouse Youth and Family Services. Chief, do you want to add anything on to that?
I will simply add, this is part of this plan is something I brought forth to the manager, and she took it and kind of ran with it and built upon it. This is modifying curfews is something that my colleagues, chiefs across the country, are being forced to take a look at because they're dealing with some of the same issues that we are. So just wanted to let you know that. And do you want me to get into the enforcement side here? To the committee, to the chair, the only thing in CPD's policies and procedures that will be modified because of this proposed ordinances are the times of the curfews. Everything else in our policy and procedure will remain the same. How we deal with the kids, where we take them, warnings, citations, all of that will remain the same. It's been in place for a while. This simply is modifying the times that we can enforce the curfew.
Thank you. Seven Hills will provide a neutral location where staff will handle intake of youth, facilitate connection with families with the help of job and family services where possible. They will be great partners to work with while we are working on getting kids home safely. If we're unable to contact a parent or guardian, kids will be taken to Lighthouse Youth and Family Services. They have staff and transportation available to get kids to the Macomb House where they can stay overnight. I want to be clear, that the goal is to get kids home safely. I remember my grandmother saying nothing good happens after 11 o'clock. Kids being out unaccompanied after dark can lead to bad outcomes. We are doing everything in our power as the administration to contribute to positive interactions, new possibilities, and expanded programming for kids, especially in our urban core. But we must also provide CPD the enforcement mechanism they need when we see large crowds of kids causing disruption in our community. This is a delicate balance reached through weeks of thoughtful conversation and careful collaboration with trusted partners. We're not trying to pick on kids. We're trying to prevent them from getting hurt or from causing harm and ultimately joining the criminal justice system. This is about protecting our neighborhoods and, most importantly, our youth. I also want to say we have a lot. Thank you all for assisting with the funding of many different partners that we have in addition positions. CPD is not in this alone. The goal is through the warning to also have 311 community responders out there, also to have the Community Cares Initiative through Collaborative Community Cares Initiative through Iris Foley's people out there. We are trying to get as many of our partners to stand up and assist us with making sure kids are given the option to make a good decision. But we also know that our police department should not have to be tasked with being a babysitter. And so we're trying to work in a line of community to find a way to support these efforts. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. To be quite frank and honest, I greatly appreciate the work and the thought that went into trying to make sure this is this fits where we are in 2025. What I like most of what I've heard is the option that police officers do have the option to transport young people home knowing that there's an adult there. This is something that, let me go back to the old days, you know, when I was out there, when you ran into young people and they were out beyond the hours of the curfew, the first option was to take them home if there's a responsible guardian or adult at home. And I really think that helps a great deal in mitigating, making sure that young people have and understand that they have a responsibility to be at home. So I thank you all for the thought and the work that went into making sure that we're doing everything we can to have young people, first and foremost, being safe. And then after hours, as the manager alluded to, they don't become victims of crime. Mm-hmm. That is something we all have to play a part in. We don't need young people on the streets after hours to where they unfortunately become victims of crime. So all of those, it appears to me that all of those factors have been taken into consideration, and this is a well thought out curfew. There's not one magic bullet. Everybody plays a role. Parents play a role. Young people that know that are 13 and 14 years old, prayerfully they can tell time, and they know what time, they know when it is time to start heading home. The district, the curfew district, or what are we calling that? Are we calling that the curfew district, or are we calling, what are we calling that, Madam Solicitor?
Special Extended Curfew District.
Special, say that one more time for me.
Extended.
Extended Curfew District. Now, I think as the chief alluded to, the only difference would be they would have to be out of the extended district by 9 o'clock. I like the fact that we have one shadow time, 11 o'clock, for everybody under 18. I like that. So with that, let me say that we're also joined, I think, by the birthday girl, Miss Owens. Welcome. I think it's her birthday today, I believe.
That is
welcome
correct, Mr.
to
Chair.
Safety and Governance
Thank
Committee.
Thank you.
And I will open it up to my colleagues, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Let me start by saying the things that I like about it. first of all, the emphasis is on not criminalizing our children, so they're not charged with violating the curfew. That doesn't go on their record. They don't create a record for them or add to, what possible record might exist. So I like the fact that we're not criminalizing them. Isn't that correct? I'm sure if they're doing something, if they're in some kind of bad behavior, that's a different issue. But they're not being charged just for violating the curfew. Isn't that correct?
Yes, the enforcement of this will be the same that we've been doing for years. If we come across a youth, a juvenile, we would want compliance first. We would make them aware they're violating the curfew, they need to go home. If they refuse to do that, only then would we take them and do what we call a closed referral, and then you take them home to their parent. And it's just a piece of paper to say to the parent, your child was out after curfew, here you go. And that is the process that would begin. So it's a closed referral.
And then if I don't have to hold this down, sorry. Okay, and if the parent can't be contacted, they go to the Seven Hills Neighborhood House as a curfew center, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and they can only, I understand they can only be held for 3 hours because after that you have to charge them. And so the idea is not to charge them. And so that's really the point that I'm trying to emphasize, that we're not criminalizing our young people. That's very important. The other thing, I appreciate Ms. Kidd talking about resources and reaching out. So it's not just an opportunity. First of all, what Councilmember Johnson said about keeping them safe, and I think, having children on the street late at night is not safe, so that's a good thing. And then getting to Seven Hills Neighborhood Houses, where you have resources for them, I think that's a plus. It's also an opportunity, I think, to see what's needed in their lives. For example, what's happening at home. Why aren't they at home? Is there some help, some resources needed with the family? That's another opportunity. Also, I really would like to see more of our young people, and this goes to what we've been talking about after school, with so many young people coming downtown and all of that, a lot of them really need after-school jobs. And so here's an opportunity. We can't sign them up because the parent has to be there, but given that the parent or guardian has to pick them up from the curfew center, this is an opportunity to say, let's expand our Youth to Work program. Let's say to them, how about an after-school job for your child? The Youth to Work program that our rec center does is really excellent. Just knowing, like, my child was in it when he was in high school, and it's not just about working. It's also about talking about goals for the future. It's about planning your life. It's about financial literacy. I mean, they did a lot of really good workshops there that I thought were positive and something our children could really benefit from. So I'd like to talk about that. If we can take this opportunity, not just to take the child off the street because they're violating the curfew, but let's see how we can help them in their lives and really move that forward. I think those are all really good opportunities. As for our rec centers, I just have to respectfully disagree. I don't think taking our children to rec centers, if this program expands to other parts of the city, is a bad idea. The rec centers staff, they know how to deal with our children. They know how to be positive, and I think they can make this a positive experience for them, and be welcoming and invite them to come back. And the same idea is connecting them with resources. We have a really good CRC staff, and I know that I'm sure they would be welcoming to our children. So that's another thing, just to keep that in mind. But that gets back to my question about the curfew extended district. So are we considering at some point enforcing the curfew across our city, or just in the business district?
To the chair, I'll start this, and then I'll have the chief expand upon if I missed the mark. The goal is, first of all, we do know that predominantly majority of the kids are in our downtown area. That is where we have a large population of young people after hours. So that's why we utilizing the data. It says that's where most of them go. But secondly, when you go into more of the residential areas, it makes it a little bit more difficult for CPD to be able to enforce, because how do you know a child is not going home? There's a lot more houses that are there. Downtown is an entertainment district. There's a lot more bars. There's things like that. So that when you're questioning a kid to get an idea of where they're going, why they're out, and all those things, it's more than likely than not that, yes, in the residential, their home is right around the corner, versus we knowing downtown that's not true. Chief, do you want to spin upon that?
Absolutely. To the committees, this was kind of designed around a few things. Data, first of all. We looked at arrest, crime, calls for service involving youth, and also some of it is driven by listening to what the officers are experiencing personally when they're out there at night. When we are all at home and not dealing with this, they are out there dealing with it. And also listening to the business community in the downtown and southern OTR area. So it's a multitude of information that was brought forward to help us decide this geographical area.
Okay, I can understand that. I hope we're just looking to see how we're doing in other parts of the city. I think, one, just in terms of the fairness, I don't want our community to think that, we're only trying to keep children safe when they're in a certain area and not in others, or that, I just know this, the curfew over the years, you said it's been around since the 1990s. So over the years, at different points, we've tried to enforce it, we being the city. And so some of the complaints that we've heard in the past were, you can get, picked up for curfew violation, in Evanston, but not in, say, Mount Lookout. Or someone might say, why aren't they looking at kids in Mount Lookout, or why aren't we here? So the idea is just to make sure that we're being fair across the city, that it doesn't matter, where you live. In this case, I understand you're just focusing on the actual business district, because you're saying that's where most of the youth are, and so they'll go to the Seven Hills neighborhood houses. But as I said, so we'll keep that as an open conversation.
Yeah.
I understand what you're doing now.
Agreed. To the chair, so 4 to 17-year-olds account for 82% of the arrests in the summer. From June to July 15th, the central business section and over the Rhine saw the highest percentage as far as youth-related calls for service.
Okay.
But what we do know is this is a resource throughout the city for officers everywhere, regardless. The curfew has changed to 11 o'clock. If they do come into contact with somebody that falls in non-compliance of the curfew they can utilize that curfew outside of those areas as well. And officers, any tool that we can give them at this moment to utilize in their toolkit, we are happy to have. So yes, every officer will be made aware of this curfew and the opportunity to utilize the curfew center as well. And so this will be something that will be on everyone's radar.
And I just, I know CPD is on top of this. We've got the best police force in the country. Dealing with youth can be difficult, and I know you guys are aware of that. So, but I just want to emphasize to parents and guardians and other adults that I know the idea is to be respectful of them and to give them a positive interaction with us in the city, meaning our police officers. Okay. All right, that's important. So, okay, well, thank you for that. I just look forward to hearing more and actually working more with this program to see how we can do things to really, help our children on a different path. And I think a lot of the kids probably that we're going to encounter are the very ones we need to talk to about, what's happening at home. What resources do you need? Do you need tutoring at school? Is that why you're not in school? Do you need an after-school job? Is that something that could help? I would just say the other thing about the Youth to Work program that I really like is there's an emphasis on no matter what kind of job it is, that they have to meet the leadership of the company so that they can start seeing themselves in a higher place. And I really like that. I think our Youth to Work program is really excellent, so I'd like to see it expand. Thank you.
Ms. Alvey?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for all your hard work on this. Thank you for the briefing yesterday. So Judge Bloom is here, and I know she has trial at 10. I've got a couple questions specifically about the criminal, like what happens with the criminal justice system in terms of the kids. So I want to ask those questions first for Judge Bloom. So in the ordinance around the special district, Section G, under penalty, it says, any minor found violating the provisions of Division Section B of this shall be guilty of committing a curfew violation. What does that mean in real terms of the implications and the consequences of that?
So if I heard the chief correctly, and in our conversations, I've heard that compliance is the main focus and charging someone would be last resort. A curfew violation in the city of Cincinnati and in any of our other municipalities in our county is a status offense, meaning that it's only against the law because of your age or because of who you are. That means that you cannot be taken to 2020 or incarcerated solely on that charge. So if you're out and you get a curfew charge, you can't come to 2020 unless, like the chief said, you have an open case, you have a warrant on something else, or you're picked up and charged with other things during that curfew.
So, thank you. So if, as a status offense, does it go on their record, and does that mean something in the future if it's combined with other offenses that come up in the future?
A status offense is able to go on your record. Your juvenile record, of course, can be sealed and expunged at certain times. A status offense is eligible to be sealed and expunged. If it is the only thing on your record, then what will likely happen is you'll be referred to a diversion process or to services for you and for your family.
Okay. Thank you for that. There's a couple instances in both these ordinances where it talks about allowing the officer, sorry, let me give you a specific. Section D, on the back side of the page, it says, if the guardian or parent doesn't appear, the officer may be then empowered to take the minor home or to Hamilton County Juvenile Court. What would happen if the officer brought that kid who's violating curfew to the court?
To 2020. We say 2020, meaning the Hamilton County Youth Detention Center. Everyone knows 2020 is, for the vernacular, easier. If you were only charged with curfew, you would not be eligible to be admitted to the detention center. That's under federal law. If you only have a status offense, you can't come into a jail. My understanding of that law is for the protection of kids, not to be incarcerated when they shouldn't be. And to that end, what we have done, both the city manager and the chief have been open to the idea of the court working with folks like Mr. Christian, who's here, and assisting in finding community members who can help get those kids home. The court can't, as a judge, I can't lobby, I can't hope you change the ordinance or hope that it's enforced a different way, but I can help to make sure that kids are safe, and I can help to make sure that communities are involved in the process. And so that's what we've done, is started work with Mr. Christian and a few other gentlemen, and we'd be happy to work. I wrote down Ms. Kidd's name. I'd be happy to work with her too, to get their involvement in the curfew center and hopefully get them home rather than dropped off at, I think they said, the Meekum House.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so that was another point I wanted to clarify, and this is probably more for you, Solicitor. Again, in Section D, we've been talking a lot about that we can't hold kids beyond the 3 hours, but the very end of Section D says if the parents fail to show up, refuse to appear and take said minor into custody within 2 hours after such demand is made upon said parent unless reasonably hindered from doing so. Just curious about the time differences. I was briefed with 3 hours, Vice Mayor said 3 hours, but here it says 2.
To the chair, to the council member, the 2 hours was previously in the ordinance, and that is more on what's the responsibility of the parent or guardian to come get your kid. The 3 hours is found in state law, and that's the maximum amount of time that the police may, have custody of youth for the purpose of reuniting them with a responsible adult.
Thank you, that's helpful. I have a few more questions about other parts of this, but I want to be respectful since we have Judge Bloom. If any of my colleagues have questions for her before she has to leave, I can cede the floor for that.
No.
Okay, great.
I actually, this is my first time doing this, so I don't know if this is allowed, but you did mention the Meekum House, and we at the court utilize the Meekum House, just so that everybody knows that is a voluntary center. Kids, when you drop them off, they can walk back out. So as someone who receives criticism for the revolving door of, I'm not sure, delinquency, I just want you to know that kids can check themselves out and go right back out. I don't know how that would go for the police. I'm not sure how that would work, but just so that that's information that you have. That is, of course, something that I hope is the last resort, and that's what I've heard is the last resort, and that's why we're being really diligent in hoping that community members as well as folks from the court can help reunite kids with their families or get them dropped off someplace safe to avoid that, that placement.
Thank you, that was really helpful. Thank you, Judge.
Thanks for having me.
So one of the other pieces in terms of the enforcement, so I think the number, I'm going to call this Ordinance 1, just cleaning up the language, I think that all makes sense to have that universal time. It's really in this second part where we're implementing. So, there's a couple points of contact and handoffs that I want to talk through, and the first one being the initial, curfew is hit, police officers are going out and seeing kids or, out and about. And I really want to talk through that process of kind of how are you warning kids before that 9 p.m. Time, and how are we leveraging our community partners, violence interruption specialists, Iris's team to actually do that initial outreach before even officers have to go up to kids and have the first interaction.
We'll start. Okay, to the chair, to council. We have been working very closely with 311 community responders, Iris Rowley Shop, this entire summer to essentially do the same thing without a curfew. They have been working with Captain Adam Henney out in the Banks, this entertainment districts, walking around, trying to make sure we're encouraging kids to make good decisions. They've even moved to Main Street in different areas where we are deploying them depending on the hotspot. So this is not anything new to us. We're just incorporating it into the curfew into curfew conversation. And basically the conversation would be them walking around as we're approaching the time that the curfew is nearing to basically, hey, you guys, make a plan, a good plan. We're about to head up to the curfew, being those touches. Ultimately, and that would be potentially very, every engagement would be just reminding youth of they would be deployed in different areas throughout the city, not throughout the city, throughout downtown, and kind of having those conversations, reminding people of the curfew. On the front end as well, we had a call earlier with 48 of our partners who are human services. Many of them have also said that they would communicate out, whether that through their listservs, about the curfew being enacted and what time it is as well. They have already volunteered that, in addition to we've worked with the schools that will be sending that. So there's the pre-notice of letting people know that there's a curfew. There's the people that are the boots on the ground that are supportive to reminding you kids that the curfew is there. But ultimately, if the kid does not make the right decision, we will have to get to the CPD component of it. And so, Thea, you want to expand?
Sure. Thank you to the committee. So we have many different ways that we can make people aware. Obviously, what we're doing here today, this discussion starts it. Tomorrow, your voting will continue that conversation. My hopes are that it will pass, and then we will take full advantage of any communication strategies that we have, such as our social media platforms, our local media, the city's social media platforms, to make people aware of this. We will do our due diligence on the front end of this, and then when it comes time, when the officers are actually out on the street, curfew is in effect, or approaching the curfew hour, and there are kids out there, they can let them know. It's almost curfew, it's almost 9. Are you aware of the new curfew? You need to go home. Conversations such as that. Now, each one of those interactions will be different. It's kind of a case-by-case basis. They might see 2 kids walking downtown, and maybe they're not causing any problems right now, but they need to be made aware that 9 o'clock is approaching. They'll handle that one way. They might have a group of 10 or 12 that are downtown that look like they're causing some disorderly behavior. They might choose to handle that a different way, letting them know it's 9 o'clock. If we have large groups, very large groups, we would use a PA system to let them know, curfew, you have 15 minutes, curfew is about to come upon us, you need to go home, you need to go home. So we have many different ways that we can communicate this out.
Thank you for that. Solicitor, this might be a question for you. So I think having community responders out there, having Iris Rowley's team, which I know has a more formal name, kind of doing that first outreach is all great. I don't see any of that kind of those warnings reflected in the ordinance. And as I think about future councils, it might not always be us sitting in these seats. And, you know, this council has been very vocal. We don't want to criminalize kids, but, you know, laws stay on the books even when we come and go. So I'm wondering, as we look at this ordinance, if there's a way or if it would be appropriate to work some of those warning stages into the language of the ordinance so that's actually codified as we look at how this is implemented.
Mr. Chair, to the council member, you know, I think I've had this discussion with each of you from one time or the other. We're always trying to strike a balance between what makes sense to be in our municipal code, which requires council to meet and consider and, you know, have that specific language in the ordinance, and then really what's more appropriate for the policies and procedures. Obviously, you know, the city manager reports to you all. We have civilian control over the police. So all of those checks and balances are within our form of government. But ultimately, it is the council's discretion about what you want to add into the ordinances. I think my experience cautions against having really what are police policies and procedures that might vary and really do need to be responsive to the situation in front of the people, you know, doing the work in, you know, our municipal code. But ultimately, that is, you know, the prerogative of the council.
Thank you for that perspective. You know, I don't know where everyone else stands, but I think from my perspective is, you know, we're not trying to criminalize kids, right? We're trying to get them home safe. We're trying to make sure they're not committing crimes and they're not victim of crimes. So as much as we can make sure that these procedures are set up to be in place even long after we are not in these seats, I think the better. We've spent a year and a half talking about the transit centers and trying to minimize, you know, police-kid interaction at the transit centers, and it's how we came up with the community responder program. So I think all those best practices we've learned over time, we need to continue to implement and continue to build into the fabric of how we operate as a city. So I appreciate all these answers. I have one last question, then I'll turn it over, and that's just in terms of as measuring kind of what's happening. For our special sessions a couple weeks ago now, Chief, I asked, you know, what are the stats around juveniles being involved in disorder? And I'll widen that now in terms of both committing and being victims of, if we have that data to be able to track this problem and how this curfew can impact it over time.
Yes, so to the committee, we ran the data in consideration of this curfew modifications. And the data supports, like I said, along with the information from the people who are doing the work and the business community, it all supports this to be done. If you have a special request of that data, we can get you that. I don't have it in front of me right now, but if you have a specific request of some of the data that we have already pulled, we will share that with you.
Thank you. I'll have my office reach out. Thanks so much.
Mr. Chair, I did, if I may, want to add a clarification to my earlier answer to Councilmember Albee. My understanding of the closed referrals that CPD was talking about is before it would get to juvenile court, so that's within the officer's discretion. And then obviously if, you know, it does get to juvenile court, it is a status offense. If that's the only thing on the use record, it's eligible for that sealing and expungement. And then the second part is for the adults who are responsible for kids who are violating the curfew. The ordinance has and continues to provide that the first instance is a warning to the adults, and then it would escalate to a minor misdemeanor.
Thank you for that. And before I go to Mr. Jeffries and the other colleagues, let me say this. I do understand we do not want children criminalized, but then I'm going to say this. The police have every right, every right to talk and interact with juveniles. And if there is a perception of something not looking right, what we don't want to do is say police cannot interact with juveniles. Police can interact with juveniles. A lot of great police are out there interacting with juveniles, and the juveniles appreciate that interaction also, based solely on the relationships that have been established over the years with school resource officers and a lot of community-oriented police officers and things of that nature. I do understand what we're saying as a city, but we do want interaction between police and juveniles because I think over the years, it builds a rapport. I still interact with some of the students that were at Taft High School when I was the SRO. So I'm saying that interaction is not always negative. We do want the police interacting with juveniles because there are some that have amazing rapport. There are amazing police officers out there doing amazing work that are helping our young people stay on the right track. So I just don't want it to come off like only people can interact with juveniles are community monitors and civilians. No, we got amazing police officers that interact with children every day that do an amazing job. So I just don't want that perception out there. Mr. Jeffries, please.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for all your work on this. I know it's pulled together in very short order, and I'm hugely supportive. Three questions just on the mechanics of it. The first is probably a quick one. I'm assuming this is year-round. The biggest challenge is in the summer right now, but this is a year-round, the enforcement of it would be year-round.
To the chair, to the council member, yes, I thought it was important for us to have this year-round. It's very difficult to just plan something and get it activated. We need to know how this works. We need to learn, we need to know what the information is telling us. We need to know what is happening with the kids. So for me, to have it year-round on Friday and Saturday nights is going to be important to be able to do that. There will be a goal of having a check-in internally with my team, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months in, so that we're looking at the lessons that are learned. We have engaged JFS as well because we really think that they need to be a really good partner. Although they have not, they're definitely interested in having conversation with us so we can provide information to them. We need to be on the side of being more proactive than reactive, and this may be an opportunity for us to get information to get kids on the other side of things. So yes, in order to do that, we need a bigger snapshot, and so we're trying to do it year-round.
And I think it makes total sense. It's easier to communicate to kids versus like it stops this time and it starts this time. Year-round, it's very simple. You alluded to my second question, but I just want to make sure. So we are operating the Seven Hills Lighthouse Partnership on Friday, Saturday night. What happens during the other days? So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, kids are out and about. What do we do if they're not compliant? What happens?
To the committee, when the curfew center is not operational, obviously the ordinance is still in effect. The officers' efforts would remain pretty much the same. They just physically wouldn't take them to the curfew center. We would still want them to try to locate the parents, turn the kids over to their parents, closed referral. If all efforts fail in contacting a parent, then we would take the youth up to 2020, and that's where Judge Bloom's efforts with these community individuals that will also then go try to locate parents on our behalf would kick in.
Okay, so in a scenario like that, there's a group of 10 kids. It's 11 or midnight on a Thursday. CPD approaches them, says, okay, the curfew, you need to call your parents. They all need to stay there as their parents are called, and they're instructed for the parents to come down to that physical location to pick them up?
That is an option, yes.
Okay. And then, okay, that's helpful. So at no point CPD is not bringing them back to their house or anything. They're not bringing them back to their location themselves.
To the committee, Again, these scenarios will be very, very case-by-case efforts by the officers using their discretion. For example, if they have siblings that are violating the curfew, it might be easier to take them home to one location versus if they have several juveniles who are not related and taking them to 3 different locations. It might be easier to have the parent come to them to get their kids. So it's very, very case-by-case specific, left up to the officer's discretion. I have faith in them that they will make the right choices with this.
No, that makes sense. And there's obviously a million scenarios, and you have to leave some discretion to the officers, just trying to anticipate the ones that are the most problematic, especially where kids are not compliant, because they're kids. And often they think they know better. But under a scenario, for example, let's say a group of kids, you said 10 to 12. On a Friday night, they're at the banks. They say, nope, not doing it, not complying, 12 kids. How do is CPD just going to bring a bunch of officers down there or vans to bring them back up? Or like, what does that look like in that kind of a non-compliant situation to not escalate it more and make sure that it's de-escalated and they're brought safely to Seven Hills?
As to the committee, some of those questions are logistics that we will still work through, finalize internally in the department when the ordinance is passed to see what resources we have available. To your point, a van, our school resource officers have access to those. That is an option. Having the parents come to us is also an option. So all of that will be explored.
Okay, thank you. I think all of us have the same objective, which is getting kids safely home and safely to Seven Hills or Lighthouse, wherever. And I think it's just making sure that as that interaction happens, that it's not escalated. So I think we're all on the same page on that, but thank you.
Good.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Owens.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chief, City Manager, and Madam Solicitor for being here today. Yes, echoing the same sentiments, we all want our young people to be safe. And so I think there are 2 things that are very critical to me, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying, Mr. Chair, underscoring the value of relationships in these interactions. And so, yes, CROs are critical in schools, and they develop that relationship with that young person. So tell me on the front end, Chief Thigi, how we might be selective about the detail, who we're asking to be downtown enforcing curfew, because I think what's important is that the interaction is positive at the very top of this, because ultimately the last resort, really, for everyone involved is the curfew center. Knowing that there's wraparound support there is important as well, but I think it's that initial interaction. So can you tell me about how we might be specific and intentional in police detail?
Yes, to the committee. So this is not a detail. This is a tool for all Cincinnati police officers to utilize who come in contact with our youth. I envision in the special enforcement area that some of our central business section officers, District 1 officers, our CDRT officers who are down there every weekend for crowds will be the first to interact. All of our officers receive training. OPATA requires updates periodically, but when they're hired, they all are taught how to interact with youth. We do have some that do it daily in our youth services unit, and obviously they become very skilled with that task. But this is for all officers. This is not a special detail, but it is a tool for every officer across the city to use.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So it sounds like all officers are trained in how to interact with young people. And I guess specifically, might we consider using like SROs that may already have positive interactions with these young people in the downtown area? Would that be a consideration?
To the committee, at this point, specifically tasking SROs with this is not a discussion that I've had. We have already tasked them with, especially during the summer months, so much with our youth. The multitude of camps that we do, the rec at night, the pools, the security at the pools, the skating, to put this additionally solely on the SROs is really not a plausible execution of the plan. So we will keep it open to all CPD officers.
Okay, thank you. I think another thing that's very important here is the public information that gets disseminated, even beyond, and to your point, this is the start of a good conversation, but I think when we're talking about enforcing something that we've not done in the past, but certainly centering and valuing young people being safe, I would appreciate understanding a good strategy around how we're talking to the public, how we are even talking to young people right now about this curfew. And so I think information on the front end is really key. So City Manager, if you have anything else to share about our strategy there.
Yes, to the chair, to the council member, we have already been focusing on our communication strategy, and it is really going to depend on community and partners, to be quite honest. Every one of us has a different subset of group of young people that we are either in service to or doing something for. And so what we have already, the first initial conversation that we had was out the gate, was getting all the people that we are funding and saying, we need your help. We need to know how we're going to communicate the information to you for you to distribute to all of your people. In addition to the schools, working very closely with them to also utilize this as a vehicle to use their phone service so that we can get it out to communicate that the curfew is in effect and what those specifics are. Every one of you all up here is the responsibility to make sure that people are communicating that there's a curfew. We will use the media. The media is here right now, and I guarantee you they will happily report this in the moment that there is a curfew. So what I would tell you is that we're going to use from our social media to our websites, in addition to YMAG is currently working on a video or a TikTok that they can send out to other kids that is in their voice. So we're utilizing several strategies, but at the end of the day, we're going to need everybody's help to educate and inform. And at the end of the day, we have to make sure these young people understand that there's rules, and you are given the guidance to follow those rules, and then there's ramifications to not following those rules. But the great thing and compassionate that we are finding a safe place for them to reset. I also want to make one more comment regarding the Community Cares Initiative, regarding the 311 community responders and all the things that we're doing, and ARC, all those interventions before policing, putting it in the ordinance and those things. This council has been amazing in giving me the resources to be able to do those things. However, we can't guarantee if there is a budget situation and you have that in there, that following the other councils will have that ability, but to have those additional things. But what I will say is one thing the city will always fund is our police department. So I would just caution to put anything that would handcuff the officers if things happen financially, to put it in an ordinance that would make it difficult for them to do their jobs.
Certainly. And thank you. I'm glad that you called out media, because as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking I'd love to see if this is possible, like that ticker tape every night. You know, curfew is coming up. Make sure you know where your young people are. So this is a full 360 of all hands on deck, and the communication network is pretty critical to that. So I speak for myself, but I am sure my colleagues are deeply invested in making sure that that communication is there. Again, it's all the front end work that's so important, which is why how we are looking at our community partners and activating spaces too. And I appreciate the work that you all have been doing to kind of augment where young people are and push them and move them into places that are, are activated for them. And so I think we need to be hyper vigilant on making sure there's alternatives as best as possible. And so yes, Iris Rowley, her crew, and all of the others. And so just encouraging that we make sure that we get very creative. And I will ask this as just my own curiosity. The data tells us that young people are downtown in that boundary. Why do we think young people come downtown?
Take the first stab at that to the committee. What I saw when we first started having our issues a couple of years ago with Government Square, I went down and I just kind of watched to see. I think they go down there because it is go down to see people and to be seen. This is where they go to meet up with their group of friends. It is also where they may post on social media, hey, we're going here, and then a lot of other youth show up there. But it is, in my opinion, it starts out as a place to see and be seen. And that's why, in my opinion, the 9 o'clock curfew is so important, because it's one thing to go down there to socialize. It's what happens after the socializing is finished and the disorderly behavior starts, and sometimes then crime follows. So that's just my opinion.
I think, I don't know if Iris is here. No, she's not. But is she? Oh, she knows why young people are downtown through her qualitative. She wants to share that. But what I would say is that also downtown is easily to get to with utilizing bus and transportation. You can hop on a bus, you can go down to the transit center. It's an easy way, an inexpensive way for everyone to get a large amount of people to get on a bus and be able to all, with your friends and everything, get out and hang in a certain location. Also, there's not residential houses anywhere, so you don't have, not really in certain locations, so you don't have parents that are there overseeing the activity as you're doing as well, would be mine. I don't know if you want Iris to expand upon that, but.
I would appreciate it if she would like to come.
To the chair and to the council, good morning. My name is Iris Rowley, if you don't know. I don't want to, for the sake of, I don't want to repeat ourselves, because we've been here before giving you the reasons that children populate downtown Cincinnati at Government Square. And one of the community care initiatives, people who do it every single day and who's still doing it today. So we've been at Smell Park. We've not stopped. We've been there all summer long. But I want him to speak to that. I do want to respond to something that Vice Mayor said, because I don't want you to think that while we've been at the transit sites for 2 complete school years, we've pumped more information about jobs, whether it's from the city of Cincinnati, the county, the Talbert House, the Urban League. And so when we released the data, we populated the Urban League the first year with 100 kids of employment. I think about 70 kids went to Cincinnati Reds. And then the full robust rollout from the city and its pathways, I don't know those numbers, but in collaboration with Jude Johnson, we touched over thousands of kids that at all of the transit sites. So we pumped a lot of information, but I would like for Z to answer Councilwoman Mika Owens' question.
Ms. Rowley, do you mind me responding to that, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for that. I love the fact that you all are giving them resources. I know in speaking with Mr. Betts and also with Ms. Gray at Hamilton County, they've signed up like 1,500 kids for jobs too. The issue is the parents aren't there to sign. And so what I'm saying about our young people get picked up at curfew, here's an opportunity because the parents have to pick them up. And so we can interact with the parents as opposed to bringing them down. So it would help to strengthen that. Yeah. So, but thank you for that. Thank you for the resources being shared.
No problem. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm one of the advocates that work with the care unit downtown on Government Square. Ms. Owens, the reason why kids come there, this is a place where they engage with each other after they leave school. They just come there to meet and talk and play, and sometimes things can get carried away and escalate to other things. But mostly, they just there to just engage with each other. Just talk, play, fight, talk. And sometimes look for information and look for other things to do. Like they said, you have the rec centers open, but sometimes they don't know that. They don't know that they are welcome in the rec center as much as they are. So they come there and play and hang out. It's just a place to hang out for them.
Certainly. Young people want spaces as well. And so, again, I think as much as we activate community partners, and thank you for the work that you're doing, that's going to be important. And for me, it's like we always want to go upstream. So how can we make spaces, third spaces, safe spaces, attractive to young people at the beginning? So, again, I am grateful for the moment that we are in to make sure that we are all centered around young people and their safety, but also helping them to move beyond that. So appreciate it. This is definitely a community effort.
Yeah, it's a community effort, and also we need more safe spaces. They need more safe spaces. We need to invest in more safe spaces, places where they could be. You know, I believe that recs can be, you know, renovated to have more stuff to attract them in. Like they said, like they have intermittent late night rec. We need more places for that, more stuff like that, more things to be available for them to know that they are welcome as well. Like we have a lot of people doing work in the city, but I believe that everybody in the city need to collaborate. You can't, and so that we all working together for the same cause.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, one last question to the city manager. What would the timeline be to operationalize the curfew center?
Currently, we are, once you all pass the ordinance, we're still working to get in contract Lighthouse in addition to Seven Hills. I'm hoping not this weekend, but the following weekend to get that taken care of. There's some back and forth between us and the vendor that will need to happen. But Law and Team Cincy has been amazing with doing everything they can to get things expedited as possible. This is the only reason why we're here today. But I want to again applaud the team, because this has been a very tough summer for us all. We have been very, very busy. And when we started this conversation on a Saturday, and they have rallied and it got us to this point. So I just want to thank the work, but following weekend would be great.
Thank you. Yeah, and I will just underscore, yes, you all are busy behind the scenes. So thank you for your effort, your diligence. We are all we are all dealing with a lot, and so I appreciate you continuing to lead the charge. Thank you.
Mr. Nolan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank all three of you and your teams for all of your hard work on this. Very much appreciated. I just want you to know, at least from me and my office, we very much support your efforts and support your recommendations. And thank you for all that you're doing on this. And I also want to thank the officers that have taken the time to sit down with me and talk through some of the issues as they see them, including on my the ride-along I did a couple weeks ago with Officer Basner, and learned a lot with that experience. Also very much appreciate the efforts of the task force, and appreciate you sharing out the results of that, and glad to see how effective it has been this summer. So appreciate that. We certainly want everyone to be safe, and we want everyone to feel safe. And so I appreciate the efforts of this committee on trying to address those priorities. I will also say I'm not a big fan of curfews. Some of that experience is personal. Frankly, 9 p.m. feels a little early to me, but I again support the work that you do and your recommendations. I do think about some of the other impacts that may have. Are we deterring organizations with youth from having events downtown? For example, my senior prom was moved to Butler County because of a curfew just like this, and that, no big deal on me. Like, we managed to make the most of that, but there's a lot of schools across the city that I would love to invite downtown, to experience downtown, to see how safe it is, to see it as a good place to join and engage. And I have some concerns that we may be deterring schools or other groups from that sort of thing. It also, and I very much appreciate what Councilmember Johnson shared about the positive interaction between our police force and youth, and I very much support that and encourage that as well. With some of the efforts around the curfew, it does feel a little bit like we're asking officers to go above and beyond with babysitting, children. And I'd much rather have their efforts focused on other things, and I'm sure you all would as well. But I do appreciate the curfews as an enforcement tool. I do think we need to reset behaviors and habits. We need to establish a way to deter crime in our urban core. So ultimately, I am supportive, even though there are parts that I'm not the biggest fan of. And I just hope that down the road we can revisit all of this as we see the effects of the policies.
May I say something?
Miss,
I want to.
I'm sorry. You good, Mr. Nolan? All right, Vice Chair.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question that Mr. Nolan brought up about his senior prom, for example, because my understanding is that there are exceptions when young people are downtown for a job or a ticketed event. So a prom would be a ticketed event, or something, a program for youth
I think
would be an exception.
I think the concern is what happens after that ticketed event, that kids may, in that instance, hang out in Washington Park taking pictures or whatever. And so the schools want to avoid the risk of that happening, and so they preemptively move the event somewhere else to avoid even the risk of that.
I think there are ways we can work with the teachers and the chaperones at the prom or at events to make sure that young people have access to spaces like Washington Park.
Mr. Cramadine.
Thank you to the chair for letting us attend. We appreciate the privilege of being here and being able to speak. So thank you, and thank you for your leadership on this issue. We always appreciate it. The administration, I think this is great work under a very short time. I think this is a critical step towards restoring public confidence in safety. Just thank you for your work. This is very important to give our officers the flexibility to handle some situations that I think that they need. I do, as we move forward, again, great work. I do have two concerns. The Vice Mayor talked about the potential of equitable enforcement. Whenever you carve out a special area, I think that's something we need to consider and monitor moving forward. And also I think it's the perception, probably that, especially what we've heard today, the perception that between 9 and 11 we'll be pushing a problem actors to the neighborhoods. So people get on the bus line and go to Bond Hill and Seymour and Reading. So I don't think that's the reality. I think it could be the perception. I think it's something we, as a council, need to monitor and move forward. So thank you. Fully support this.
Thank you. Ms. Albee?
Yeah, sorry, apologies. One more question I meant to ask. How does this initiative, the curfew, fit in with the other initiatives we've rolled out over the summer, especially as we think about Red Bike and even how this fits with Rec at Night, some of those other things? Like, we've gotten a lot of questions about our plan, and obviously we have lots of tools in our tool belt, so we'd just love to hear a little bit more about how this feeds into the broader plan.
Yeah, I'll start. I think that all of these are kind of comprehensive strategies that we know where we've seen problems arise with, and we needed to find solutions that could be given from our law enforcement to help them remediate those issues. We know that Red Bike was being used in a way that was not advantageous and not in the way that it was supposed to be used. And since we have been able to make that change, we have some reduction in the areas that we've made the adjustment of Red Bike hours in. And the reduction has been in breaking in cars, and it's been consistent, I think, over the last, since we have done that. And so this curfew, we will manage the same way, right? We will stand it up. We are going to be starting this in the fall, giving us time to really get our feet underneath us, and so that when summer does happen again, we have had months of being able to do this. We will look at it, we will see what the data is telling us, quantitative and qualitative, and what the accomplishments we've been able to make with it. And we will pivot accordingly. So it's what we're trying, as I said, we added the programming, and we can always add more, yes, but we've added the programming, we've extended the hours of programming, we then saw the Red Bike, we've also had the officers who've been very granular with where they've been showing up, and then now we still have the issue with kids out late, right? So let's add this as a resource tool. It's always a strategy. We're always problem solving. We're always finding ways to scan and add things to it that are within the vision that this mayor and council has set. And I think that's what we have been successful doing.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies. I'm going to say this in concluding this on this. Anybody that's got a grain of sense that is really looking at the efforts of this city, that's trying to make sure our young people are safe and trying to make sure we're doing what we can to keep them safe. Anybody that would reject that we're not doing anything addressing these issues is got their head in the sand, or they are really just trying to be adversarial for absolutely no reason. I applaud the efforts of you, Madam Manager, Chief, this council, the mayor, for all the steps that we're taking in a comprehensive approach to do what we can to keep young people safe. But in addition to that, as Madam Manager pointed out, ultimately it's incumbent on our parents to accept the responsibility and the gift you got from God in protecting your children. It is your responsibility, parents, to protect your children. We're doing everything we possibly can on this dais, and everybody in this building is working their tails off. And at 310 Ezra Charles in all the districts. And anybody that wants to cast stones, you're out of your mind. You just want to be adversarial for no reason at all. But parents, you need to protect the gift you got from God. You need to be responsible for making sure your children have boundaries. You need to be responsible for knowing where your children are. And if it takes us assisting you, that's what this curfew is. So parents, protect your gift, because ultimately you will be accountable for what you did with that gift. Thank you, ladies. Greatly appreciate you. Let's jump right to items 6 and 7 that address the curfew. Item number 6 deals with the blanket of 11 o'clock in the 11 o'clock time for everybody under the age of 18. Questions, comments, conversation from the committee on any of that? All right, do we need a roll call vote? Okay, hearing no rejection, we will move item number 6 on for passage. Item number 7 deals with I think the Madam Solicitor called it the extended area. And that deals with the 9 o'clock approach of young people being out of the extended area at 9 o'clock. Questions, comments, concerns from the committee? Hearing none, we will move item 7 on for passage. Allow me to jump down to item number 8 quickly. This deals with establishing a new salary range for the new parking lot inspectors. As we've talked about, we're moving to do some rating of parking lots, and we're going to have parking lot inspectors. If am I on point there, Law, what this is? And this is establishing a salary range for that. Questions, comments, concerns from the committee? Hearing none, we will move item number 8 on for passage. Item number 1, the presentation, we will file that. Let's move to item, let me do this quickly if the committee does not mind. Item number 4 is quick also, and this deals with making sure that we are giving credit to those people that have attended schools, safety schools, like Scarlet Oaks and those type of things, that would give, when they come to take the civil service exam, they would be giving points for attending those schools. We are in a dash to make sure our police department is adequately manned. So I think this gives us a step up in addressing those issues, along with the lateral class and the 58 recruits that are in now. But if there's any questions, comments, concerns about item number 4, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson, for this. So, you know, we've been talking about the Public Safety Academy. I know that some members of the police force, as well as the fire department, specifically CAFA and the Sentinels and others, have been talking about how they really want this Public Safety Academy, which, you know, is really, it's part of CPS. But one of the big bonuses of going through it is getting those extra civil service points. And so thank you for doing that. That's a good step in the right direction. And we're still working with CPS about, discussions are going on now about the Public Safety Academy, which exists in some form, but really making it more robust and also making sure that these civil service points are included. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Any other comments, concerns? Hearing none, we will move item number 4 on for passage. Item number 5, I'm going to ask Mr. Nolan to speak on that. You have the floor, Mr. Nolan.
Thank you, Chair. This is a proposed charter amendment. I want to thank the Solicitor's Office for their hard work on this, in particular Solicitor Ian Doig for all the time he has spent with us on this. The root issue here is complex, and the proposed amendment is meant to help simplify our campaign finance reporting requirements. The proposed amendment will align the reporting periods between the city and state reports. It does not necessarily eliminate any reports. This is meant to address really 3 issues that I think I've seen in my experience. One is really access to the ballot. There are an overwhelming number of requirements that we have here in Cincinnati compared to our peer cities. And with the finance reports that were just filed in the last couple weeks, I have noticed there are a lot of people that probably could appreciate from a simplification of this process. Second is transparency. When the reporting periods don't align, we have information being published after one reporting period that is then published again after a different reporting period. And media has then reported on those as if they were separate reports, when in fact they were one and the same. And it creates confusion for the voting public about where campaign contributions are coming from. And then third is efficiency. My hope is that folks running for office are spending their time engaging with the community and focusing on policy and not worrying about these additional reporting requirements that really fail to add anything to the public good. The policy reason behind the original city reporting requirements no longer exists. It had to do with easier ways to track compliance with contribution limits, but because of the technology that we have today, particularly in the Office of Ethics and Good Governance, they are able to do that work without these separate reports. So I want to thank David Whitehead at the NAACP and Treva Reed at the Urban League for collaborating with us on these proposed changes. I also want to thank the Greater Cincinnati Voter Collaborative and the League of Women Voters for meeting with us and reviewing the work and giving us their feedback. Happy to answer any questions about this. Ultimately, the goal is to simplify these requirements and enhance public transparency.
Any questions from the committee? Mr. Nolan, thank you very much for your leadership on this. I think anything that helps us streamline, anything that helps to streamline a process, I'm all for. But questions, comments, concerns? Hearing no, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. No concerns. I just want to thank you for that. I know former Councilmember Liz Keating started by cleaning some things up. So, for example, when candidates get signatures, if they don't have enough, instead of having to start all over, they're just told how many more they need. I think that's really helpful. unfortunately, the school board folks are monitored by the state, so there's nothing we could really do for them. But I think that really, it makes the process less onerous and encourages more people to be involved, which is really what we want. So we appreciate that from Ms. Keating, and thank you for this. This is something else. So we don't want confusion about reporting. We want the public to be able to readily access information, and we don't want to, just by accident put in the wrong information for the wrong period. So I think that helps a lot. And as you and I discussed, this is a point you made to me that really stuck with me when we talked about your charter amendment, is that some people say, look, I don't have the staff to do all of these reports. And so, I'm, John Q. Citizen, I'd like to run for office, but I just don't have all of that staff to do all of this. So it makes it easier, and it helps more citizens to be involved in this democratic process and serve. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. We will move item number 5 on for passage. Item number 1, we've been here a while. Item number 2, Ms. Albee, I'll turn this over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So as we look at addressing safety this summer, there's a couple things, tactics, just looking to make sure we as council are supporting. So the first one, we touched on it a little bit around community violence intervention specialists. This is a tactic we've been using at the transit centers. It's the team led by Iris Rowley. It's called the Collaborative Agreement Community Care Initiative. So really looking here at part 1, how do we continue to support that team in their efforts, especially as you talk about deploying a curfew, having those folks out in the community, having those conversations with the kids first before CPD begins actually, enforcing the curfew. So that's part 1 of this. And I've had conversations with the administration around whether or not they want to have that staffing in-house or continue to leverage a partner. I'm leaving it to the administration for their best judgment on that. Second part is identifying hot spots that could benefit from principles led by crime prevention through environmental design. So one thing we have seen this summer is a real increase when it comes to property crimes, car break-ins, burglaries, those type of things. And those are issues that we can address by changing the physical environment, so lighting, cameras. When we were here for the special session, the police chief talked about a treatment you can do to windows to keep them from being broken into. So I want to make sure that we are looking at place-based problem solving and being able to fund some of those solutions as well. And the last piece ties in with what we just voted on in terms of the parking lot, but there's kind of 2 parallel efforts happening around parking lots. We know an issue is that guns are being stolen out of cars right now. So on one hand, we are increasing and improving our requirements around licensing for parking lots and parking garage operators. That will come with additional requirements around safety. And then the parallel effort is also CPD working on this grading system that Chair Johnson mentioned, where we'll actually be able to increase transparency for those of us who go downtown to park, how safe is this garage? So I want to make sure that we are supporting those efforts and thinking again on solutions of how do we prevent guns being stolen out of cars. So asking for support with those funding available through Pivot and Act for Cincy, especially around the Secure Firearms Storage Action Team. And then the final piece here is just asking for a report from the city administration within the next 10 business days that will outline these efforts, both to inform us as council members, but the public and how this will all be executed and if there's any additional funding needs needed.
So just for clarification, Ms. Albee, this is just a matter of making sure that we are on the right track. Is this additional funding, or is this a matter of the administration just looking doing a deeper dive, making sure that the funding is available so that we continue this process?
Correct. Want to make sure that the funding's available and that we're properly resourcing these initiatives. The Collaborative Agreement Community Care Initiative, Z and others are already out at Smale Park and in OTR at Ziegler, Maine, and Republic. But how do we make sure that that team has resources needed and we continue to do that good work?
Thank you. Vice Chair.
So I have a few questions about this. You mentioned community violence intervention specialists, and I thought the term was community monitors. I just don't want confusion in the public. Community violence interrupters, CVIs, are actually a different group. These are people who are trained to actually interrupt a cycle of retaliatory violence. And we're talking about, our wonderful folks out there in the community who are out there on Government Square and our transit centers every day and down at Smale Park interacting. But it's, both are great groups. It's just a different group, and later on we'll talk about Advanced Peace, which actually does involve community violence interrupters, CVIs. I just don't want confusion about that. Because you're talking about the group that's down on Government Square, people from the community who give of their time and service to come down and actually interact with their kids, et cetera.
Yeah, and I did use that language. I
does, yeah.
specifically asked the administration how they want us that term. That's the language the administration provided me to best outline what we're talking about.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that because, working with people who are at the center of violence in the city is different. And, it's a different training. It's also 24/7. It's not just certain hours or certain days, so it's different, and so that's not what we're expecting in this case. So, but having our monitors down there, and I see one of them is sitting in the back. They do wonderful work interacting with our young people.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Jeffries.
Yeah, thank you. Some of these are complete no-brainers, as I've talked to Councilwoman Albee. The lighting, cameras, especially downtown and alleyways and things like that, complete no-brainer. Making interventions in those spaces. Same thing on parking lots. There's a lot that we can and should do around parking lots. I do have a concern that I've shared with how I would just want to understand a little bit more on the community monitors. I think it is 100% supportive of Government Square. Government Square during the day is very different than key hotspot areas, meaning hotspot, super high crime areas. What time are these people going into there? What is their training? Are they going in at midnight? Which is very different. How are they engaging with folks? What is the approach? So I would much rather have the administration come back, and I'm going to have an amendment to the third one that articulates this, come back with what their recommendation is on the specifics. How are they engaging with youth, or the general public? But it is the key hotspot areas that gets me a little concerned, because that's very different than 3 in the afternoon at Government Square. Midnight in one of the more dangerous parts of the city, where these folks may encounter much more violent situations. We want to make sure that they're trained, that they are prepared for those. And so I would much rather see a report back from the administration on that, on what that detail is before proceeding. And so that's where I'm going to have that included in the amendment that I'll have to motion 3.
Yeah, so I'll actually invite Z to come up, but as he walks up here, this team is trained in de-escalation, trauma-informed care training, SARA training, CPTED training as well. So the team does have training, and again, part of how we phrase this first part here is essentially to give the city manager's office, again, discretion on how they want to train, deploy, and hire these folks, but knowing that this work is happening. Z, would you like to add anything about your work? Is that okay, Chair?
Well, all I want to say, you just spoke about it. You said that I'm trained in de-escalate. You spoke about all the trainings that we have, also assist as well in suicide. And I just wanted to, let that be on the record that people are not just downtown as monitors. We have been trained in de-escalate because when you're downtown, when you're dealing with any kind of people, children and grown folks, the only weapon that you have is your mind. So you have to make sure that you're trained in de-escalating, conflict resolution, trauma-informed as well, because you encounter different types of folks.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, NZ, hopefully you didn't feel insulted because I wasn't saying you don't have training. I was just saying the focus is different. The program that we've talked about somewhat too, advanced peace. It's different. It's a different target population. So it's not just everybody who's out there. It's really working, and we'll talk about it because it's been leaved onto the agenda, but it's really working with active shooters who are habitual shooters who are at the center of the violence. That small group that we talk about, who's really wreaking a lot of the havoc in the city. We're not really talking about, all our kids. We're not putting them in that group, our young people. And so that's why I just want to make that distinction. I didn't want the confusion. And the community violence interrupters actually are at the hot spots. I mean, that's what they do. They go to the hot spots, and that's what the entire program is really about. So I just didn't want that confusion, to have, I don't know what the right term is. I'm saying monitors, community engagers, working with everybody is very important work. It's just different than that specific group.
Yeah. Let's do this. I think Mr. Jeffries brings up an excellent point, and I hope the maker of the motions are all right with this. Before we move on, actually moving on this, can we get a report from the manager to make sure, first and foremost, everybody is safe in what this sounds like I'm hearing that you want to see done, especially you and the people that are out there. We want to make sure they're safe, and we want to make sure that how we're going about this as a city is strategic. I definitely appreciate the motive behind it, but I think Mr. Jeffries has an excellent point. Can we, I don't know, let me double check with law. Is it a matter of holding? Okay, so this is something that, do we need to modify this at all to say we would like the report back before we move on implementing the other two parts? If you could help me out on that, Law.
While Law's looking, just to read the language here, we further move the city administration write a report within the next 10 business days that outlines how these efforts will be implemented, identify whether additional funding is needed to support the above initiatives, and share frequent status updates at subsequent public safety and governance committees. So the report is built into the language here. So I think the question is if we need the word before the dollars move out the door, or how that would look.
You can always move to make an amendment to the motion, so you could state that you would like the report before the next steps, or you could add language to the motion indicating that contingent upon receipt of a report. So all you have to do, you have the motion, you would make a motion to amend this motion, and then vote on the amendment, and then vote on the motion.
So, am I hearing you correctly to be able to say that we can say before any implementation, we would like the report back from administration? Is that going to take an amendment? Okay, so
yes, I think that would be more clear.
Okay, so I move that before any implementation of this, we get a report back from the administration on how that will go.
Second.
Are we good?
You need to vote on the
second.
amendment and then vote on the motion.
Okay, can we get a roll call vote on the amendment to the motion?
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kearney?
Yes.
Councilmember Jeffries?
Yes.
Councilmember Albee?
Yes.
Thank you. Greatly appreciate your work, Ms. Albee, on that. So item number 2, we've dealt with. Is that correct?
Now you need to vote
No.
on the motion.
Okay, now we'll vote on the motion. Roll call vote. Or if all conversation is complete on that, yes, we'll vote on the motion.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kearney?
No.
Wait a minute, did I?
Councilmember Jeffries?
Sorry.
Yes.
Councilmember Albee?
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's been a long morning, so bear with me. Bear with me. I'm doing the best I can. Item number 3, Mr. Cramerding.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair, and again, thank you for the privilege of attending and presenting my motion. What happened on 4th and Elm happened, and what happened has been polarized and it has been racialized, and that is unacceptable. And I join all my colleagues and the mayor in speaking out against that. But the fact is, as of today, there are some Cincinnatians that have less confidence in the safety of downtown than they did 10 days ago. So this motion is a step in addressing that by providing $2 million in reserves to address public safety. I talk about police visibility. That's what I've heard from business owners and other institutions. But this is not a feel-good motion, and if there's other ways for the police chief and the manager to use those resources, I, of course, am fine with that. I've also, as I always do, talked to the chair about his experience and where he thinks this money could best be used, and he's talking about ultimately the need for more bodies, which I understand, more bodies on the street. So this motion goes to address that. The solution is multifaceted, and everybody up here is working on that. There are root systemic issues, but ultimately, policing and a visible police force is part of that as well. So we need to keep coming back to and this is part of that. Getting us back to where we want to be is going to take a lot of different strategies, and it's not going to come overnight, but this is an important first step. So thank you again, Mr. Chair, for letting me present it.
Let me thank you, Mr. Cramerding, for your thoughtfulness, and I know you did a deep dive into trying to make sure that any allocation of money would go to the specific appropriate arena to make sure this money is best utilized. Let me say this money is as Mr. Cramerding already talked about. As I said earlier, when the manager and the chief and the solicitor were here, anybody that believes Cincinnati has not made crime, violence, our number one priority has not been paying attention. You haven't been paying attention, and you're trying to be adversarial for no reason at all other than to further divide us and along political lines. Nobody is applauding what we saw 2 weeks ago. Nobody's applauding that. But to say that it's anybody's fault other than irresponsible adults that chose to handle conflict in a barbaric manner, those are the people to blame here. This council, the police department, our citizens, our manager have been working around the clock to make sure Cincinnati is safe. So we will not allow any further division. Once again, I thank you, Mr. Cramerding, in making sure that all safety measures that we will continue to address, this funding being available to break glass in case of emergency, this is the proper road to travel. We are on the right road in this city, despite what anybody says. We're on the right road because we have committed citizens that assist us in staying on the right road. We've heard from two of them today. They're sitting right there that continuously work around the clock to keep us on the right road. So thank you, Mr. Cramerding. We are doing the right thing with this motion to make sure every avenue of public safety is funded and it's available to make sure that even the perception of safety is addressed in our city. So I'll open it up. Mr. Jeffries.
Yeah, no, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Cramerding, for offering this. I am supportive of it. There is one slight amendment that I would make to it, now that we've adopted Ms. Albies, that I would like to offer after talking to 3CDC around the downtown ambassadors. So the downtown ambassadors, as people know, is an incredible asset. They not only keep the area clean, they engage people, they help people walk to their car if they feel unsafe. And 3CDC has come back and said they can hire up to 9 around downtown and over the Rhine, additional ones. And they've provided a budget to the city manager. So I would like that to be thrown in the mix as something to consider. So the way that this is worded currently, the motion is, I think, it's fairly broad, 2 million for here are various things. And I would like to offer a motion that we also consider as part of this, adding additional ambassadors. It is a proven program. I think everybody acknowledges they help clean up litter. They're also often second chance folks who can engage very well with people, and especially with people feeling unsafe downtown. Having greater visibility ambassadors, I think, is a positive add. So I would move that we add that to this motion to also be considered. So offer that as an amendment for my colleagues if there's a second.
Okay, Ms. Albee.
No, I appreciate that. I also, Councilmember Cramerding, you and I talked about too, also having a report on this funds as well, and just kind of clarity on what just happened with mine. So I had asked for a report back in 10 business days. Is that still as part of the amended version?
Yes, I believe that the clerk would have the exact language that was captured, but my understanding is that that was just to have the report back prior to any allocation of money.
Councilmember Cramerding, would you be open to same here, having that report back within 10 business days?
In talking to the manager, there's many things in work, including there's many strategies that could be utilized within that 10 days, and I believe this gives the manager to act and report back during this time. So I think that would not accomplish what the motion seeks.
Appreciate that. Would we still get a report on how the funds are being spent?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's self-evident, but I certainly, if that would make people more comfortable, I think that's fine.
I think just very quickly, the difference between this and yours is that not that the work is already being done. This is to make sure that we're enhancing the work that is being done, and funding is available to keep that work continuing, and so that's the difference. This is an and, as Mr. Cramerding talked about. Mr. Jeffries.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, because I'm assuming, because this is fairly broad, and there's no, this is how much we need for the lateral class, and I think there are some questions about how much, whether we have room, physical room to expand the lateral class in the space that we have. So there are questions about how we can spend this. So I do assume, maybe it's when we come back in September or whenever, that the manager will come back and say, okay, this $2 million, here's what I want to spend it on, or here's what I'm going to spend it on, and then this motion would then be turned into an ordinance, in which case then we would vote on it. So my motion is still on the table to add to this consideration, adding downtown ambassadors.
I would second that.
Okay, we got a motion that has been properly moved and seconded. We need a roll call vote on that.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kearney?
Yes.
Councilmember Jeffries?
Yes.
Councilmember Albee?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Councilmember Jeffries, are you able to just verify that language?
Yeah, so I would just that we, as a part of this, that we explore adding up to 9 additional 3CDC ambassadors in downtown and over the Rhine.
Mr. Cramerding.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's my understanding that I'm not a member of this committee, so I cannot accept a friendly amendment, but I do support it and think this is a welcome addition to the ordinance, the motion. We're talking about police visibility. The ambassadors are part about that. They're very visible. They are deterring crime. They're connecting citizens to the police, so I think it's important and I support it.
Thank you, Mr. Cramerding, for that. I think the collaborative effort among this committee and all council members is a great assist. Ms. Owens?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, thank you, Mr. Kermaning. I certainly appreciate the offering of this motion. And so I think my sentiments are similar to some of my colleagues, just a understanding of $2 million and what are we thinking in terms of prioritization, or what's the best impact? Because ultimately we want to make sure we're funding things as thoroughly as we possibly can. And so does that mean it's one of these things, it's all of these things? And so would love that understanding too.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Chair, could I respond? Yeah, so due to the number of moving parts, I think that flexibility is warranted, and this gives the manager flexibility. As I said, I talked to the chair and the manager as this motion progressed, and I think that was a theme. As I said, I think police visibility is part of the answer, but if that's not, another is a better solution, I am fine with that. You know, it is summertime, but if we want to have the police chief and the manager come in 10 days to finance or to public safety, I'm sure they'd be willing, but we've got a very real situation. The manager's working on a lot of solutions, as is the chief, and I think flexibility is necessary.
You good, Ms. Owens?
And I'm certainly, I think the immediate response is important. You certainly obviously have conversations that you've needed to have. And so I guess somewhere along the way, and I am not a member of this committee, so I can't make a motion on anything, nor would I think this should move forward. But understanding, yes, what's like we would think about land use, best and highest use, so where might the resources be most allocated?
And as the maker of the motion, Mr. Kremlin, talked about the fact the flexibility is important because we've got, as I think he used the term, moving parts, and the fact that we pray that we are, I know we're on the right track, but emergency situations do occur when it comes to our first responders, but the flexibility is something we talked about in depth, and I think that will help us address quote unquote hot items that may arise as a result. And so this, I think, is the flexibility is the gold stamp for this motion. Any other discussion on this motion at all? Hearing none, we will move item 3. I'm sorry. Am I on? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can we do a roll call vote for item number 3?
I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
All right, a roll call vote on item number 3.
Oh, we need a roll call on that? Okay, absolutely. We'll do it. Well, you're the boss. Let's do it.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kearney?
Yes.
Councilmember Jeffries?
Yes.
Councilmember Albee?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We do have one more item that was by leaved in, item number 9, and I will turn this over to the Vice Chair.
Thank you. So I'm bringing back advance piece, which council voted to set aside $275,000 conditioned on me raising matching funds, which we're in the process of doing. However, I think given what's happening in our city now, we just cannot wait. We need to get moving. We know that in 2023, we had 63 gun homicides in Cincinnati. Last year, 2024, we had 63 gun homicides in Cincinnati. This year, of course, isn't over. We don't have our final count, but we do know that at this point, there is an upward trend in gun homicides of young people. People are calling for more safety. They're calling for us to really take serious action against gun homicides, and it's our duty to do that. We have something that we know has worked across the country, and we need to be courageous enough to get this going here instead of just setting the money aside and just waiting. We do have a lot of good initiatives that currently are in place. Achieving Change Together, Act for Cincy, brought together a lot of the programs that we had in the past. It aims to make them more robust and to get more community people involved in these programs. And that's a good thing. We need that. We need wraparound services. We need community engagement. We need all of that. but we need more because there is a gap. In our safety strategy, we don't have a community violence interruption program that specifically deals with that small group of people who are at the center of much of the violence in the city. These are people who are habitual shooters, they are active shooters, and they are right at the epicenter of the cycle of retaliatory violence that we are not addressing. Advanced Peace is a program that's data and action driven. In the filing that I did to buy Leave It, and thank you, Councilmember Johnson, for allowing that. There's a PowerPoint presentation that includes the data. I recently made this presentation at a church, and so it was readily available. And this morning I decided, you know, let's just get going. Let's get moving with this. This is something we have to do. And so you can see other cities that have it. The data is being kept by the University of California at Berkeley University. For example, they mentioned that in Lansing, Michigan, gun violence is down by 42%. In Richmond, California, it's down by 54%. In Orlando, Florida, it's down by 26%. And they're monitoring the Advanced Peace program in those cities and several others. So we know it works, and there's a lot more data in the attachment that you can actually see. So community violence interrupters are what they call credible messengers. So there's been some pushback. People have said, we don't need people from the outside coming in. You can't use people from the outside. Community violence interrupters have to be people with lived experience, people from the community in the community, or else they're not credible messengers. They cannot connect with the people in our community unless they're from that community, unless they are a part of that community. And they cannot connect with people at the center of violence unless they've been there, done that, and now know it's time for a change. It's very important. That's what a credible messenger is. When you look through the attachment, you can see that there are many steps to this program. Community violence interrupters are paid. It's a full-time job. It's 24/7. They have to touch the people that they're working with at least 3 times a day, if not more, 24/7. It's not a part-time job at all. This program started more than 10 years ago in Richmond, California. And at that point, Richmond was the 3rd most dangerous city in the country because of the gun violence. It's now way below the top 50. They continue with this Advanced Peace program, dealing with active shooters, and they call them fellows. So I don't mean to keep calling them active shooters, but I want you to understand the population we're talking about. And you know, as an aside, because I know a lot of people are cringing and saying, why would we even deal with people who are violent? Well, the point is, one, we want safety. We want safety for our children, for our families, for our visitors, for everybody, our residents. And so we have to actually deal with those who are at the center of violence. The other thing is, if you look at your family, what values were you taught? Your family probably said, you know, graduate from high school, think about college, think about the military, think about a career, start a business. And those are paths you took. But if you were in a family that was involved in violence, then you're going to be on a different path. And so that cycle continues. I remember, you know, when I worked at Channel 5, actually, Curtis Fuller brought in some previous members of a gang. And, you know, we said to them, why did you get involved in gangs? Why were you out there, you know, killing people and doing these horrible things? And they served time for it. And they said, you know, I remember one man said, that's all I knew. That's what the people in my household did. That's all I did. I just thought, you wake up in the morning, you grab your gun, and you get out on the street. You know, there are people who those are their lives. But those lives can change. And for the betterment of our city, for the betterment of everybody, they have to change. And we have to be courageous. We have to be courageous, and it does take courage. Someone made the comment, I don't like this program because it looks like they're paying people for bad behavior. You don't pay people for bad behavior. Advanced Peace gives stipends, bonuses, awards for maintaining good behavior. It's called positive reinforcement. If you're a parent, you know that it works. I'm a mom. Positive reinforcement works. You reinforce the good behavior so that you get more of it. There are many elements of this program, from therapy to just life skills, elder circles. I mean, it's very involved, and so I try to include as much of it as I could in the presentation attached. But the point is that it does work. And I talked to someone who grew up in Oakland, California, who used to travel to Richmond as an underage person to get alcohol, as a lot of young people do. And the quote I always remember from him, he said, if you went to Richmond and your tire blew out, you would ride on the rim until you got out of there. You would not stop in Richmond, California. Now, I was in Richmond in September, much different city, very enjoyable, but I always remember that quote. So that is to say, this works, and we need to get going now. The best time to plant a tree was 25 years ago, and I think about how many lives we could have saved had we started this program earlier, and it breaks my heart, it hurts my heart, because I look at other cities where they've decreased gun violence, where we have not. They've decreased gun homicides, and so shootings are a different data point, but I'm talking about people who've actually died at the hands of guns. And I think about how we could have done better. But that's the best time to plant a tree in the past. Second best time is now. Let's do it now. Let's do it today. Let's get moving. And so in the presentation that I've attached, you'll see pictures of some of the recent victims of gun homicide. And I look at their pictures every day. And every day we hear about more shootings. And every day, many of us are out there talking to the parents of the young people we've lost. And they're wondering, do we care about them? And I tell them that we do. We are working. But I know we're not doing enough because this piece is missing. And so I ask you, let's move forward and get Advanced Peace going in this city so that we can decrease gun homicides and save our children. I will say there's been a change in the organization. We originally were going to work with Cincinnati Works, but I was told that their board did not want the funds for juveniles. And let me tell you, when I was in Richmond, California, and visited one of the life skills circles, these are the active shooters. Some of them look like they were 12 and 13 years old. And if you talk to people in some of our neighborhoods that are experiencing hotspots, they'll tell you there are a lot of 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and I see Miss Kidd from Seven Hills Neighborhood Houses saying, yeah, a lot of people involved in the shootings are young, are very young. And so we're going to work with Mitch Morris's group, Saving Our Kings and Queens. Mitch is out there all the time anyway, interrupting violence and supporting these families and doing a lot for our city. And so we're going to partner with his organization. And so we would like for the $275,000 that was set aside for Advanced Peace to immediately be released so that we can move forward. And I tell you, we are continuing to do fundraising for this organization because $275 is really just a start. But it's what the city gave us, set aside for us, and we just ask that it's released now to Saving Our Kings and Queens for the purpose of getting this program going and saving lives.
Questions for committee members? Mr. Jeffries.
Yeah, less of a question than a comment. So I think we're all in agreement on the problem of gun violence, obviously. I think we're all in agreement on the need to engage those who are committing the violence. And how do we reach those people who are the actively shooting? Where we disagree is how we engaged. So I voted against the Advanced Peace when it was proposed, and I'll vote against this again. Because the challenge I have, no, we're not giving money to bad behavior. we're giving $1,000 a month to people who've been convicted felons for good behavior. I'm the parent of 4 kids. If one of my kids is misbehaving and the 3 others, I don't give my one misbehaving $1,000 a month because they're behaving well, because the other 3 say, hold on a second, that's not fair. I'm following the rules. I'm doing what's right. So I just don't think it's right. Instead, what we should do is be engaging these folks with jobs, engaging them with job training, figuring out how we get them into good paying jobs. We've funded things like the Building Futures, which is an amazing program. All in favor of that. Just the idea of giving $1,000 a month to people who have been convicted of gun felonies for their good behavior, I think is just completely bonkers. And I think it goes against any principle of fairness for everyone else who's paying by the rules.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
what's really bonkers is not moving forward with this program. And people are not paid for bad behavior. So a stipend is part of the program. And let me also say that if you really delve into this and you spend some time with this program, you will understand everybody is not just ready to jump up and have a job. You know, the ultimate goal is to get people employed, to get them off the path of violence. But that doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. And when you're a community violence interrupter, you know that process. You've been through that process. It's something we have not been through. It's something you haven't been through. And I know it's difficult to understand. But this program works. The data shows that it works. And so we are ignoring something that's data and action driven, something that actually works. And the end result means that we have a safe city. The end result means that we stop the cycle of retaliatory gun violence. We have to be courageous and do that.
Ms. Albee.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. We all agree on the problem and wanting to save lives. I did want to take a moment, since I don't know why CPD didn't report out the latest data, but I printed the latest STARS report. Shooting incidents year to date through July 19th, they're down 17.8%. And for a 3-year average, they're down 25%. Another city that implemented this program is Orlando. They used some ARPA dollars, which we no longer have available, as well as a federal grant for $1.5 million. And their results were pretty much similar to what we have. I'm looking at the page now. It says their firearm homicides were down 20%, which is, a little bit above, which is great, what I just rattled off. So I think for me that the bigger question is understanding how the funding would work, and we've already had one community partner fall through for various reasons, so I just don't feel like I have enough information about the actual implementation of this program and the oversight and how the money would work in terms of where the funding's going. Is it I wasn't on council when Vance came to present, and I haven't been able to find the replay on City Cable, which is a different problem. But my understanding is it's like a $600,000 consulting fee before we get to even doing those stipends for positive reinforcements. So I at this moment, am just not comfortable enough in how this would be implemented. So I would prefer to have maybe more of a presentation out from the partners and understanding how that would work and how it would work with the administration's efforts currently.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair.
So Councilmember Albee is citing shootings versus gun homicides, and I made it really clear. We are talking about people who are dying. Gun homicides are not down, and in fact, with our youth, they are up this year. And those of you who watch the news, you hear about shootings every day. And so even though there might be this, rhetoric that goes on that shootings are down, gun homicides are not down. People are out there dying, and we've got to stop it, and we can stop it. And we have to have the courage to actually do that. The second point is this money has already been allocated. The point is that it was held to say I have to go raise matching funds. At this point, we need the money released now, because we need to get moving with this program. People are dying, and we need to be courageous. We need to make a difference. And I think to allow this gun violence to continue and think that we're doing enough does not make any sense.
Let me, we're going to take a vote on the motion Here's
Mr.
one
Chair.
thing. I'm sorry.
Just wanted to make comment,
Yes, ma'am.
even though I can't vote. So, agree with all of the comments mentioned. I think what's really important is alignment and all of the pieces and making sure we're continuing to move in the right direction. And so back in October of 2024, I supported the version B of this motion along with Councilmember Albie Walsh that allocated setting aside $275,000 for advanced peace with the additional footnote, because I think there is a disconnect of, at that moment, the details, and I'm still unclear on what that looks like. But these funds would be dispersed contingent on matching fundraising dollars being raised by December of the following year, 2025, and that updates be made to council and administration during this 12-month period regarding relevant budget information, fundraising efforts, and alignment with other city public safety strategic initiatives. And so as a supporter of version B, my principles will remain the same in terms of the information that I think is important right now. And again, the alignment into how is this strategically aligned with Act for Cincy. You know, we have our Human Services Fund, we have boots on the ground, and so for me, it is about strategic alignment at the end of the day.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the question about alignment. So back when Virginia Talent was our assistant city manager, she showed me the chart that many of you have seen. There's one side that has a lot of programs that are policing programs. There's another side that has a lot of programs that are non-policing programs. And so the side with the non-policing programs were brought together under one umbrella called Achieving Change Together for Cincinnati, Act for Cincy. Very good. Bring them together, re-energize these programs, get more people involved in them. But I said to her, you know, where is the program, where's the part of this where we're dealing with the active shooters, that small group of people at the epicenter of the gun violence in the city? And she said that is the gap. And so the alignment is that Advanced Peace fills that gap. It works with that group, the people who are wreaking the most havoc in the city. There are not a lot of people. There is a smaller group. It's not like everybody's out here doing this. But this group has to be dealt with. And this is why other cities have been successful in reducing gun violence, reducing gun homicides. And I'm not just talking about reducing shootings. I'm talking about people who are actually getting killed. Other cities have been successful in that, where we have not reduced gun homicides. And this is why. Because we have this gap, and that is the alignment. It's like a puzzle, and all the pieces have to fit together. But there's that missing piece, and this is the missing piece.
Ms. Albee.
Yeah, no, I appreciate, we definitely want to keep people safe. To read the rest of these kind of shootings, it does say fatal victims are down 10.8%. I think I will reinforce what Councilmember Owen said in terms of understanding better the presentation to council and all of that before moving. This would be a big program, big change, so I think it is fair to us as all of council to really understand what this program looks like, the implementation, and to hear from our community partner. Mitch is great, I love Mitch, but really would like to hear from him and his team directly on how this partnership and implementation would look before we make such a big investment, since we know it will take more than just the 275 to truly execute the vision of Advanced Peace.
Let me say this, and let me jump in here, and we're going to move the vote. We're going to move the vote as a committee. Let me jump in here and say this. We have a lot of amazing programs out there, but I think insanity is doing the same thing over and over again the same way and expecting different results. I think that's the definition, or the street definition of insanity. This Advanced Peace would be another tool in the tool belt. There's, as we've said a number of times here, there is absolutely no one magic bullet for this. It's a collaborative effort, all hands on deck. I think Advanced Peace is a missing piece of the puzzle that, as the vice chair has said a number of times, and those pieces of the puzzle have to come together so that we're doing every possibly thing that we can to make sure we have a safe puzzle for the city of Cincinnati. So we are going to move.
May I say one thing?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that we have shown videos. We've had a presentation here. We had a presentation at the Holloman Center from Devone Bogan, who actually is the founder of the program. And I'm happy to resend that information because I think we have provided more information on this program than anybody has ever presented on any program ever funded by this city. We have provided so much. Even the founder of the program has been here twice to Cincinnati, so and met with people in our neighborhood. So I'm just saying and I'll send it again. I'll send you the video again. You have now the presentation again. So you know, there's lots of information out there. I think something is keeping us from being courageous. You know, we have people dying out here, and we have to stop it.
Thank you. We're going to move to vote on this motion in number 9. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kearney?
Yes.
Councilmember Jeffries?
No.
Councilmember Albee?
No.
I think that fails.
It fails. Mr. Chair, I'd like to move under Rule 10.8 that we move this on for a vote before full council on Wednesday.
I'm sorry, repeat that, Madam.
I'd like to move under Rule 10.8 that we move this for a full vote before council on Wednesday.
And what is the procedure with that, Madam Clerk? Or law to help me out?
Mr. Chair, to the solicitor, I believe that would have to also be approved by the mayor's office.
So, could you speak up just a little bit for me? I'm
It
sorry.
has to be approved by the mayor's office.
Oh, okay. So is it incumbent upon me to say yes, and then the mayor's office would make that determination? Okay, yes. This has been a lengthy meeting. I think that concludes all business. But, you know, let's get out of here on this. I want to applaud each and every one of you for the work that's being done and keeping Cincinnati on the right track. I thank you all for that. I thank you all for your commitment to public service in making sure Cincinnati is on the right track. Our haters, our naysayers, everybody that's trying to divide this city, whether they're on a national platform or on a local platform, I tell them get their head out of the sand and be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. We have a lot to do societal-wise in this country. It's not just Cincinnati. We got a lot to do societal-wise in this country. And some of that's just basic respect one for another. How about that? Just basic respect one for another. So I applaud you all. Thank you for being on this journey with me. I think the citizens of Cincinnati applaud us for the journey that we're on. And anybody that continues this lie that people don't want to come downtown. I was out Friday and Saturday night, and there were families all over this city enjoying this beautiful city. Thank you, Cincinnati, and I think that concludes this meeting.